Ready? Good afternoon and welcome to the Ways and Means Committee bill hearing. Today is Thursday, February the 17th, 2022. Today we have 8 bills to be heard. 2 are sponsor only and 6 are regular bills. We have a witness. We're delighted to have 117 witnesses for today. So, Chair Atterberry is at a hearing. However, she will be here to resume her chairmanship. But let's begin with Delegate Griffith. Welcome to Ways and Means. You're a member, but welcome for House Bill 599.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. And thank you to the members of the Ways and Means Committee, my colleagues. First bill I have today is HB 599, Harford County Board of Education limitations on virtual meetings. What this bill is, it's a very simple bill. What this bill does right now, we have Board of Ed across the state and the State Board of Education all meeting in person. A lot of things we've had to contemplate with COVID, everything we had to contemplate. So we just want to codify that the Board of Education should be meeting in person as all the other boards across the state are doing. So that's all this bill does. We do have a number of off ramps to that, obviously. And just to back up just a little more, so I've spoken to people from every part of our county, parents, teachers, staff, faculty, and we've all spoken about the fact that if they're reporting in person, they obviously want their Board of Education, who's requiring them to report to be in person. This bill does not prohibit people from being able to submit testimony virtually. We want to make sure we have access and everyone in the county has an access, no matter what their comfort level, to be able to submit testimony. So this bill requires, if school is in on a given day, if teachers and staff report to school on a certain day, as the same day as a board meeting, the board must also have their meeting in person. And we built in certain provisions. Obviously, if it's a state of emergency, they don't have to. If school's closed that day, a weather emergency, and a friendly amendment we added in delegation. If a credible threat that's determined by law enforcement, they would also not have to be in person. Additionally, this is now a delegation bill. Supported unanimously in a bipartisan fashion by the Harford County delegation. So thank you very much, Madam Chair and members, and I request a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Griffith. There's a question with Delegate Ebersol.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. What a pleasure it is to say that. Thank you so much. So is there any precedent for us in the legislature requiring a certain type of meeting, either virtual or in person, for any other body that we have jurisdiction over?
Well, I mean, certainly the Maryland General Assembly were required to meet in person on the floor of the House of Delegates or at least in Annapolis, to conduct our business. So that's where the inspiration came from. The Harford County Council has been meeting in person almost entirely throughout. And of course, when I look at every other Board of Education across the state, including the State Board of Education, are meeting in person. Certainly it's something that we've never previously had to contemplate because they've always met in person. And so we're just trying to codify what's already been understood and even to what we're required to do as well.
And your reference is to a constitutional requirement for us. Is
Correct.
is there a problem you think you're solving by not allowing virtual meetings?
I mean, I think there's transparency and access, and also fairness when we're looking at the fact that the Board of Education does require the entire school system to report in person. And we have amazing teachers in Harford County, and they're reporting every day and doing yeoman's work and an unbelievably difficult time for them. Certainly leading by example. So if they're requiring our teachers and staff and faculty and support staff to be in person every day, I don't think it's unreasonable that the Board of Education abides by the same standard that they're required of all their staff and be in person for a few hours once every 2 weeks.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any other questions? Just for clarity, Delegate Griffith, your county commissioners or county council members, as well as the Board of Education members, do they meet in, I'm sorry, not the board, but do your council members meet in person?
Yes, ma'am, they do. Yes, they do. They have been.
Thank you. Well, there be no other questions, that will conclude the testimony for House Bill 599. And don't move, Mr. Delegate Griffith, because up next is House Bill 603.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this bill, we feel is just a little bit overdue. Right now, Harford County is one of only 3 counties in the entire state of Maryland that still has gubernatorial appointments. It's us, Baltimore County, and Caroline County. If you look at the physical note, it lays out the makeups of all 24 jurisdictions. So what this bill does is we're just trying to be in line with almost every other county in the state and jurisdiction in the state of Maryland by removing the gubernatorial appointment and replacing. What my bill does is removes the 3 gubernatorial appointments and replaces with 1 appointment by the county executive, confirmed by a supermajority or 5 of 7 members of our county council to confirm. Bill is still working through our delegation, as well as there's a Senate version that's a little bit different. The Senate version has 3 members appointed by the county executive, confirmed by the county council in the same fashion. So we're working through that. So we still have a little ways to go before we're done with this bill in our delegation. But a very simple bill, just bring us in line with, again, almost every single jurisdiction in the state of Maryland.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I have a personal question because I'm a former school board member, but again, how many members serve on your board?
We currently have a total of 11. It's 6 elected, 3 appointed by the governor, then the superintendent, and then a student member with limited voting rights.
All right, and how will this change? 3 members will be appointed by?
My bill takes away the 3 members appointed by the governor and replaces it with 1 member appointed by the county executive and confirmed with a supermajority of the county council. There's a sunset to allow the 3 members that are currently appointed by the governor to complete their terms. And so once their terms naturally end on June 30th of 2023, then this process would move forward.
All right. And again, this is going to be heard by your delegation, but no vote has been taken.
It already has been heard. We are just working through some of the details. And obviously, we wouldn't want to move this forward unless it was a delegation bill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Am I the first person to get to say Madam Chair to you officially?
I'm not getting used to it. I'm fine where I am. Chair Atterberry doing a fantastic job. Okay, that concludes House Bill 603. And now let's move to House Bill 541. Delegate Chi, thank you. And I see there will be 4 witnesses. So Delegate Chi, if you will begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the Ways and Means Committee, and good afternoon, Madam Chair. I'll be the second one saying that. I'm Delegate Lily Chi here to present HB 541, Career Technical Education Committee alterations. HB 541 expands the membership and the functions of the Career and Technical Education Committee, which is a unit within the Governor's Workforce Development Board established by the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. I have a sponsor amendment that would clarify the intent of this bill. As amended, this bill would add 2 more members to the CTE committee. One is a representative from a skilled trade organization, and another is a representative from a career college. And the second, this bill would require the CTE committee to compile and provide a list to school counselors of those trade organizations and career schools in Maryland. and the counselors would then distribute the lists to the juniors and seniors in high school at appropriate times and to their parents. And finally, each county school system through their superintendent will report to the CTE committee annually on the number of students, juniors and seniors who have received that information and resource. The reasons we are asking for these specific improvements are simple. We all believe in career and college readiness, but when it comes down to implementation, we need to be much more direct and specific. With the growing crisis of labor shortage, especially in some critical industries that we depend on for our everyday life, we really need to build a stronger pipeline to fill many good paying jobs that offer career pathways and benefits. At the same time, many working families and their students are finding a four-year college proposition unaffordable or too risky and uncertain a proposition. So with more specific resources provided at the right time to the students and their families, we hope to provide better options to help them make informed choices about their lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delegate Chi. There is a question from Delegate Ebersol. Delegate Ebersol, please.
Yeah,
proceed.
and if it's a difficult question, I could wait until after the people testify. But let me try it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's pretty much the way our new chair does it. So I was a little.
No, I'm sorry. The first witness is Matt Daley. Is Matt here?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. I am, as mentioned, Matt Daley. I run North American Trade Schools at the Security Square Mall in West Baltimore, and I'm also speaking on behalf of Mid-Atlantic Association of Career Schools. We wish to offer our strong support of this bill for the Career and Technical Education Committee alterations, and our members include career schools in allied health, welding, HVAC, truck driving, electrical, aviation maintenance, typically programs that are not offered at the traditional universities and colleges tend to be skewed a little more towards hands-on, a little less general ed, a little more specific technical skills that would result in quick completion, quick employment, and at needs fields. Most of our schools get calls constantly from employers that just do not have enough entry-level people entering into the workforce. Our schools address those shortages. This bill would solve two problems for us. First, we believe that skilled trade organizations and career schools regularly evaluate the workforce needs and make adjustments to the program to meet the needs of the workforce. However, these two stakeholders are not currently members of the Career and Technical Education Committee. This bill would allow for the stakeholders to share their information and perspectives with the other CTE committee members to help evaluate CTE curriculum planning. Secondly, the bill ensures that students in high school are made aware of all the skilled trades and career opportunities that are available to them. The bill provides a list of skilled trades programs with career colleges in Maryland so that the students can evaluate their post-secondary options with all of the information that's available. There's no question that a skilled workforce shortage does exist in the United States as well as in the state of Maryland. This is a small tool that can be used to help address the challenge. It's also important to note that this bill includes career and technical schools and skilled trade organizations. Each offers a unique path to a career, recognized credential, and we embrace the ability to help Maryland's workforce.
Delegate Patterson, you're muted.
Thank you. Mr. Daley, you're right on cue with your 2-minute delivery, and I'm very pleased to turn the chair back over to our chairman, Atterberry.
Thank you so much. Thanks for taking over for me, Delegate Patterson. So next, calling Ms. Pringle, please, for 2 minutes. Good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. Thank you. Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I am Tafia Pringle, the Director of Career Services at Lincoln College of Technology, here today in support of HB 541. By way of background, Lincoln offers education in automotive technology, electrical and electronic systems technology, HVAC, culinary arts, baking and pastry, and welding and metal fabrication. Our programs lead to either a certificate or an associate degree. Over the last 10 years, we have graduated more than 4,500 skilled workers that stay in Maryland, fill key skilled trade jobs, and contribute to this state's economy. Lincoln is constantly assessing the workforce conditions in Maryland and identifying where workforce shortages are arising. In 2019, we invested $1 million to establish our welding program after recognizing the pending shortfall in the workforce. We are investing another $700,000 this year to add 20 more welding stations because our program has grown so rapidly. Of note is that we had 100% placement of our graduates in the programs in the first year. Lincoln Tech and similar schools can play a vital role sharing workforce insights with the Career and Technical Education Committee to ensure the curriculum being introduced is maximized to meet the workforce needs of the state. This bill can be an important tool for Maryland students to continue a passion they gain by participating in the high school CTE course. Maryland has more than 100,000 high school students currently enrolled in CTE courses. And while many will go on to 2- and 4-year colleges, career schools and skilled trade programs offer an affordable opportunity to students who wish to contribute their career-specific education. HB 541 ensures that students are provided with a list of all career colleges and skilled trade programs, so they are at least equipped with the information to make an informed decision on their post-secondary path. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I urge a favorable report on HB 541.
Isaac Mayer, please, for 2 minutes.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Isaac Meyer, Compass Government Relations, here on behalf of Lincoln Tech. I will not repeat everyone's testimony, but what I will say is I want to make sure one number sticks in the back of your mind as we're having this conversation. That's 25,000. That's the number of students that graduate high school each year in Maryland that choose not to go on to college. And that's really what this bill is about. It's just making sure that they have the information to make an informed decision about what their post-secondary education might be if it's not a 4-year university. And so with that, I urge a favorable report and happy to answer any questions.
Are a couple of questions, and we'll start with Delegate Ebersol.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It worked before and it's working now with the 2 people who've been in charge. Sorry to see you go, Delegate Patterson. Glad to have you back, Madam Chair. So one of the things that we have to make sure we're clear that's going on here is that the distinguishment of career colleges and skilled trade organizations can sometimes, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes these are for-profit organizations. Even Lincoln Tech works on a profit, even though I will say that my experience with them is that they're a very good player. So what the question is going to be that what sort of guardrails might we recommend for students so that they understand, and we've compared them to 4-year colleges, but we haven't compared them to 2-year colleges, community colleges. And so I'd like to think that we would warn students that financially, it may be in a very different situation if they're using these schools, not that they're not getting a good bang for their buck perhaps, but that we do that. Maybe we have a couple of amendments that also distinguish them from their components, their comparable community college programs, and even maybe, and I'm concerned how we would do this, but somehow there are some very bad players out there who chase students deep into debt, don't actually follow through on their promises. I say present company accepted here, that we have maybe some sort of vetting process before we put these schools randomly on a list that students will go to. Oftentimes, if a counselor has that list, student will see it as kind of a sure thing that the counselor has it, so it must be good. So any response from Lincoln Tech or from the sponsor, anybody on that concept, I'd like to hear.
Thank you. Let me just start and please jump in, my expert panel. I think this is an excellent point. We are not making the assumption that anyone who's registered to do business in Maryland as a skilled trade organization or career school should be necessarily immediately listed. I think we task the CTE committee to do its job in terms of putting together a credible list of organizations. And the school counselors should be trained to work with them to understand how they can properly provide that resource as one of the many resources, including two-year colleges. I represent a district where the University of Shady Grove is, and it's a beautiful 2+2 model where they go to community college and then advance to four-year college. So what we are saying is that there are a myriad of choices, and what we want to make sure these organizations that are based in Maryland also have a chance to be presented as viable options. And we welcome any disclaimer kind of language to make sure the students understand this is just one of many options. Okay, thank you.
Delegate Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Delegate Key, for this bill. I was reading through the fiscal note and maybe I missed the very beginning, so I do apologize. I had someone in my office and I missed the very beginning of your comments. So in the fiscal note, it states that the bill repeals the statutory limit of 6 CTE members jointly appointed by the governor, president of the Senate, speaker. So there's not a set number of members. So you're not getting rid of the 6 CTE members already listed. You're adding to the list. Am I just understanding that correctly?
That's correct. We are just adding 2 members, one representing each of the categories. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I just wanted that clarification. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the bill sponsor or her panel? Okay, seeing none, thank you. That concludes the testimony on House Bill 541. Moving now to House Bill 573. And there are 4 witnesses. And let me see if Delegate Belcastro is here.
I'm here. Hello, Chair Atterberry.
There's too many people on the screen. I'm like, where are you? I see you. There you are. Okay. All right. So whenever you're ready, you can begin. And the folks following you will have 2 minutes.
Great. Thank you. Chair Atterberry, Vice Chair Washington, members of the Ways and Means Committee, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present House Bill 573, School Wellness and Recess Grant Program Establishment. Many of us in the Maryland General Assembly wear 2 hats, and I am certainly no exception to that. When I'm not serving in the legislature, I work as an adapted physical education teacher in one of our public school systems. And that simply means that I'm responsible for teaching our young people about the importance of physical, social, and emotional well-being with a specific focus on our students with disabilities. And since returning to the classroom following the disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, there is one thing that I can say with certainty, and that is that there has never been a more important time for recess. In our first days back for in-person instruction, the first thing I noticed was the impact the pandemic had on my students' physical, social, and emotional well-being. And simply put, students forgot how to cooperate and interact with their peers. Recess has an important role to play in building back from what was lost from the pandemic, but more notably, recess serves as an important tool in improving overall student health, wellness, and academic outcomes. So in my teaching role, I have the opportunity to work in many schools across the district that I serve. So I'm speaking from direct experience and observation. Our playgrounds are in much need of maintenance and accessibility upgrades so that our students with disabilities can experience the full benefits of recess. Too many times in my teaching career, I have seen students excluded from realizing the full benefits of recess for reasons such as their wheelchair doesn't function properly on mulch. There isn't a specialized swing available to meet their needs, or there's stairs instead of a ramp leading to the playground equipment. So under this bill, MSDE would be tasked with creating a $500,000 grant program to help our schools update and maintain their playgrounds to better serve all students. And should our schools choose to participate in this program, they would have to demonstrate strong written wellness policies that align with the whole school, whole community, whole child model and demonstrate how inclusion of students with disabilities will be accomplished. There's a couple of amendments that I want to mention that I've made to the bill, and they have been sent to the committee. Amendment number 1 simply strengthens the commitment to accessibility by adding the mention of students with disabilities in the preamble. And Amendment 2 clarifies the mention of non-public schools to ensure that the funds under this program are utilized only for non-public schools administering pre-kindergarten as per the blueprint. So I've spent a lot of time talking about the aspect of this bill and how it expands accessibility at recess, and that's really important. But I also would like to mention that the bill will enhance recess opportunities for students with or without disabilities. And I'm reminding the committee of this because a couple of my wonderful colleagues, Deb Marcus and Elizabeth Metz, are here. They are also adapted physical education teachers, and they will be testifying today. And as adapted PE teachers, we are particularly excited about the aspects of the bill that increase opportunities for students with disabilities, but we were meant to have a general physical education teacher here today to testify on the importance of the bill for recess generally. He's tied up at work, so he won't be here. So I wanted to mention that so that we didn't lose sight of the full intent of the bill. So again, thank you for the opportunity to testify on House Bill 573, and I respectfully ask for your favorable report.
Thank you. Next, Deborah Marcus for 2 minutes, please.
Hi there, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome, okay. So remember when you were in elementary school and had recess? Remember how fun it was to run and play on the slides, the swings, the climbing equipment? As you think about it, you might even remember the laughter of children playing together. Now picture a student who uses a wheelchair or a walker. Does this student feel the same way about recess? Does this student have a way to get to the top of the playground equipment? Not if the only way up is a ladder or steps. Does this student have a swing that's accessible? In most cases, the answer is no. As an adapted PE teacher, I've spent my career advocating for students with disabilities to have what their peers have in physical education, recess, and extracurricular activities. I've spent countless hours teaching my colleagues in physical education how they can include students with disabilities in their general education classes through professional development and one-on-one training. When I think about playgrounds and the importance of just playing outside with your friends, I'm astonished by how many playgrounds are not accessible. And those that claim to be accessible actually only have a few things for the students with limited mobility to play with on the ground. I'm reminded of a cartoon I once saw where a group of students, including one using a wheelchair, are waiting to get into a school and the adult is shoveling snow off the steps. A ramp is right next to the steps, and one of the students says, "If you shovel the ramp, we can all get into the school." Many things strike me about that cartoon, but the one thing that stands out the most is that the students are the ones who are educating the adults on what is best for everyone. In my school system, we had a group of students at an elementary school write a letter to the special education leaders in hopes of getting funding for the swing for their classmate who uses a wheelchair and could not play with them at recess. Again, the students advocating for their friends so that everyone can play. When we think about access to playgrounds for wellness and healthy living, we need to consider all children, whether they run and play or roll and play. House Bill 573 will enable all children to lead healthy lives. I request a favorable vote for House Bill 573. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Elizabeth Metz, please, for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Elizabeth Metz. I am also an adapted physical education teacher specialist here in Maryland. I'm also the mother of 2 elementary age students in Maryland. As one who grew up here and continues to live here, I've had the opportunity to play and enjoy what our schools have to offer. My children come home daily raving about their new school in Washington County and the wonderful new recess equipment. However, in my position as a teacher specialist, I get to travel the county and the state observing many students and programs. This affords me the opportunity to also see various playgrounds our schools have to offer. The disparity of play equipment from school to school and county to county is clear, but also the accessibility of the equipment is even more profound. Delegate Belcastro's School Wellness and Recess Grant Program is a simple start to help bridge the gap in opportunities for play and movement within the state, but even more so to heighten accessibility to all Maryland students so they have an equal opportunity to be a kid, have some fun, and move. Recently, I was an observer in the process of playground bids for multiple schools in my county. Traveling around to different playgrounds, hearing how one plans and chooses play equipment and products was a foreign experience. I had never before looked up the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission Public Playground Safety Handbook, or the MSDE Facilities Guidebook, or even the Summary of Accessibility Guidelines for Play Areas in the U.S. Access Board. But becoming familiar with these resources and what our students should have compared to what they do have makes me see playgrounds in a brand new light. As I go around with my kids on the weekends and after schools, I now look for ramps and landings, including edge protection, cross slope surfaces, and outdoor conditions. I now look to see if there are accessible routes that connect all entry and exit points of accessible play components. And I even sigh when I see mulch, as Delegate Belcastro said earlier. Never did I think of mulch as a negative aspect in a playground. That is until you have a student in a wheelchair who wants to independently navigate. I respectfully urge your favorable report of Delegate Belcastro's House Bill 573 to help improve play and movement opportunities and accessibility for all Maryland students. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Delegate or her panel? Okay, seeing none, that concludes the testimony on House Bill 573. Thank you very much. Next, calling Delegate Ebersol, House Bill 513, and there are 5 other witnesses after you who will have 2 minutes each. So whenever you're ready, you can begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 513 is a very important one to me. I hold this near and dear. One of the things that I often say is that child cares and some pre-Ks are run by LLCs or by nonprofits, and they don't have to stay open if things don't go well for them. Another thing they don't have to do is deal with or keep a difficult student, emotionally especially, that exists in their building. And so they can suspend them. Public schools, we have a more difficult time with that because if we decide a student needs another setting, we find it for them, but we don't just remove them from a school, but they have this option. They don't really tend to want to exercise it. And so there is something called the Early Childhood Mental Health Consultant Group. It's also, I think, infants in front of that exists, and it is being funded now somewhat, but it has people, individuals who will go to a childcare and will actually train the workers at that childcare in how to manage the particular student or generally students that have emotional difficulties, or even go to the extreme of helping them with that particular student. I became very excited when I found out about this program last year, and I found out that they are very understaffed in this case. And so we very deliberately put in a bill last year, which you all generously passed, which requisitioned a study to find out if indeed they needed more capacity to do their job. Research that the report's out, and it indicates that there are anywhere between 9,000 and 30,000 students who are below the age of 5 who need this sort of help each year. And in fact, the program was only able to access and work with child cares or children in 537. This is 6% of the students who need this sort of help. And this is, as we all know so well, a question of early investment. If we abandon students early, then they become their own problem and they become students that really do not reach their potential. This is the time we need to help them. We need to help them reach that potential. And so after the study came out, and the other folks will tell you a great deal about what that study said, put out by MSDE, but basically it says you need this program. You need to put it in law so it stays around, and you need to increase the amount of money. So the current amount of money that gets dedicated is $2 million a year. We're looking to treble that amount in order to allow them to be more effective and service more students. We've also slipped in there that if for some reason we give them too much money and they have a little left over and they don't know what to do with it, that we would like them to begin thinking about working with students in the grades K-2. K-2, a couple of years ago, we said that we can no longer suspend students in public schools from K-2. And elementary school administrators complained bitterly to us about not knowing what to do with those particular students. And in fact, I would like to ultimately have them begin to look at working up the age a little bit and actually begin working with those students and those teachers as well. So this is a first step. If we pass it this year, I'll be back next year for this very, very important program. With that, I thank you very much. I urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Next for 2 minutes, Margot Candelaria, please.
Hello. Thank you all, members of the committee and the chair, for allowing me time to testify today. I am testifying in favor of this bill. I testified last year as well. I am a research associate professor at the University of Maryland in the School of Social Work at the Institute for Innovation and Implementation. And our organization has actually been involved in this consultation project since its inception. We know nationally this model has effective outcomes for kids. We also have data from every year that it works for the kids in our state. We know it's a good program. And last year, what we got through was getting the study to see what's working, what's not, and what needs to happen. And I was not surprised by any of the results, which is we don't nearly meet the number of kids we need to, as Delegate Ebersol just said. There are also a number of initiatives we have underway, but we have very limited capacity to do it. So there really is an intense need to improve the workforce development of all of the providers to make sure they're all highly qualified and have capacity. This is for the current providers as well as when new providers are onboarded. We want to do really innovative things like partner with infants and toddlers programs so that early intervention also has access to professionals who can help with social emotional concerns, and other community organizations like Judy Centers and such. These are things we have piloted. We don't have the capacity to take it statewide. We're also trying to create career pathways by partnering and collaborating with local graduate programs so that they can intern as part of their graduate program and they graduate with this expertise. So we're building pathways to competency throughout the state. Again, this has been piloted, but we can't really take it statewide. A number of the recommendations, all of the recommendations that came out of that study, we highly agree with. We just need more funding to do it. We need both more consultants. 36 for the whole state is clearly not sufficient. We also need, as the report states, a high increase in infrastructure and support to build the capacity of the workforce and to get the program really up to the best standards that there are national standards, and we are increasing our capacity to get there, but we're just not quite there yet. I could go on and on and on about why I think this work is really important. There's a lot. But I will yield the time to the other witnesses, and I'm here for questions if needed.
Thank you. I appreciate your passion, but my committee members will kill me if I let you go on and on. So, Megan Horvath for 2 minutes, please.
Chair Atterberry, members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Morgan Horvath, and I'm the director of the Project Act program of Abilities Network, which provides the IECMH services in Baltimore, Harford, and Cecil counties. I've seen firsthand how this project supports families by preventing suspension and expulsion. It's a pleasure to be here today in support of this legislation. Project Act uses a highly effective multidisciplinary team model, including mental health professionals and special educators, to address the wide variety of needs faced by our community. And over 90% of the children we serve are retained in their childcare programs. At least 20% of these children are eligible for special education services, yet neither the child nor the teachers receive support in the childcare setting. 4-year-old Isabella was unable to communicate her needs, and her teachers were struggling with the challenging behaviors and asking for help. Project Act was the only program available to provide them with support. We know our model is effective, but we lack the capacity to meet the demand from our counties. In a typical year, we're unable to open new cases after the third quarter. Many of the children are placed on wait lists. 2-year-old Emmanuel, 3-year-old Davian, 4-year-old Charlotte, 5-year-old Joseph, they were all removed from their childcare programs by the time we had a consultant available. We've also struggled to keep a long-term licensed mental health consultant on staff due to a lack of competitive salary. During this grant year alone, 20% of the children receiving services have significant risk factors and could really benefit from the expertise of a licensed clinician. There are over 41,000 childcare spots across the 3 counties we serve, and we're currently funded to support only 0.2% of that population. Many of these children have substantial needs. Expansion of these services is essential for Maryland's children and families, and I urge you to support these critical services by giving House Bill 513 a favorable report. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, Clinton McCrary, please, for 2 minutes.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Clinton McCrary and I'm the Director of Public Policy at Maryland Family Network, here in strong support of HB 513. Madam Chair, this is the first time I've had the pleasure of addressing you as such. And given the caliber of the other witnesses and also Allison Nelson to follow, and perhaps also to increase my chances of being inviting back, I'll simply say by way of testimony, me too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You are definitely invited back.
Cool.
Next, Gail Martin, please, for 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Gail Martin, and I am here representing the National Association of Social Workers Maryland chapter, specifically the Social Work in Schools Committee. You have my written testimony. I want to tell you a personal story. I spent over 30 years in the public schools, 23 of them as a school social worker, most of them working with the youngest of our children in special education. The reason for this is because I started my career as an early childhood educator. And when I graduated, I began teaching an intervention program for children aged 3, 4, 5, 6. I soon came to learn that when these students were in my classroom, they did very well. They responded to the small class size, they responded to the structure, they responded to the consistent expectations. But when they went home, their parents still couldn't manage them. Clearly, they needed more. Happily, with the intervention that they at least got at school, most of them were able to return to the mainstream at the end of kindergarten. But there are so many children out there who can't. And so once I understood that, that's when I went back to graduate school and got my MSW and continued my career working with these young children. I recognize all of the providers who've spoken to you today. I absolutely back them. I thank you for your time, and I ask for a favorable report on this bill.
The last witness to testify is Allison Nelson, please, for 2 minutes.
Hello. Sorry. Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for your time today. My name is Allison Nelson from Silver Spring, and I am a parent of 3 children, currently 4, 6, and 8. And I am speaking today in favor of House Bill 513 because I've had personal experience. I had the pleasure of working with infants and early childhood mental health consultation with the Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Consultation Program within Montgomery County when my son was 4 years old. I believe the early and hands-on support is instrumental on how well he is doing now. He currently is in 3rd grade with a group of great friends and thriving academically. There are many reasons that working with an early childhood mental health professional improved our outcome. One of the main reasons is that the professional we worked with the school, the teachers, and our family. She was able to observe the classroom on many occasions to get a real sense of support, the support that my son and family needed. She was also able to give the teachers the tools that they needed in order to help support my son. Additionally, all of the other children were able to benefit from the skills that she taught the teachers. We found the cooperative approach to this program to be amazing. My son's challenges are not typical challenges that would normally receive help in the classroom. He's sensory processing disorder, which means he's constantly looking for sensory stimulation. For him, that meant having a hard time sitting and focusing, as well as sucking on his 2 fingers on a regular basis. He wouldn't have benefited from physical therapy or speech, etc. And this is where a mental health professional comes in. They were able to understand that his challenges have a mental health component to them. And without this information and tools that our professional provided my family with, I don't believe I would have known to do anything. Based on the information above, we've been able to successfully advocate for our son. We began working with both a developmental pediatrician and an occupational therapist. Along with them and the training that his pre-K teachers received, he made a great transition to kindergarten and has continued to making great strides. In my family's personal situation, this program made a huge impact.
Being able to collaboratively work closely with a specialist while my child was still young was amazing. House Bill 513 would expand funding for the program to help meet the vast unmet needs of children, families, and care providers across the state. For this reason, we urge your favorable consideration. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing your family story with us. I appreciate
Thank you for having me.
Are there any questions for Delegate Ebersol or any of the witnesses? Okay, seeing none, that concludes the testimony on House Bill 513. And moving on to House Bill 531, I need to apologize to Mr. Smith, who is here to testify on behalf of Delegate Lewis, who can't be here. But I was supposed to call your bill and my papers were shuffled, so I apologize. So there are 4 witnesses after you who will have 2 minutes, so you can begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the committee. First, I would like to note that HB 531 is cross-listed with Senate Bill 383, which is sponsored by Senator Nancy King. So to the chair, the vice chair, and members of the Ways and Means Committee, I am proud to introduce HB 531, and I urge members of the committee to support this legislation. Since the enactment of the Maryland Green School Act of 2019, there have been significant efforts to increase the number of green schools throughout the state. The 2019 bill supported the goals set by the Maryland Association for Environmental and Outdoor Education, MAYO program, to promote environmental education, awareness, and sustainable best practices. The funding passed in 2019 was intended to help more students gain access to environmental activities, resources, professional development, and experts in the field. However, when the 5-year grant funding was initiated in fiscal year 2021-2022, the program was stifled due to the increasing concerns of the pandemic, falling short of the program's full potential. This bill will simply extend the grant funding for 2 years, so the original goal of the 2019 bill can be accomplished. The Green School Act of 2019 awarded Mayo grant funding to help reach its goals to certify 50% of Maryland schools as green schools by 2027. According to the executive director, Laura Collard, Mayo has certified 33% or 664 Maryland schools, and another 340 schools must meet the core objectives that promote systemic environmental education, student action, and community partnerships to meet the goal. Passing this bill will ensure that we reach the goal of the Maryland Green School Act and extend support for more students to have access to environmental education, activities, and resources to become change makers for environmental sustainability, building a new generation of climate-conscious students. For these reasons, I urge a favorable vote for HB 531. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Javier Fuentes for 2 minutes, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Atterberry, Vice Chair Washington, and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Javier Fuentes. I'm a junior at Lower High School in Prince George's County, and I urge a favorable report on this bill. I am the president of the Green Club at my school. We became a Maryland Green School in 2017 and have been recertified in 2021. I have been the Green Club president with an executive team, 2 faculty advisors, and around 50 students who show up regularly to meetings once a week after school. During COVID and online learning, we had many students attending meetings. Virtually, we participated in citizen science activities such as iNaturalist, initiated school-wide engagement in environmental projects like recycling materials through art, but we know we can do more. Transitioning out of the pandemic and into in-person learning gives me hope for what other students and I can accomplish. Seeing students happy to attend meetings to recycle across the school and see them excited for the hands-on experience that they expect from the Green Club is what brings me here in support of extended funding for Mayo so that we can have more of these hands-on experiences. Supporting this bill means that students' activities like field trips, activities that not only boost student morale, but also improve students' environmental knowledge would happen across Maryland. The Green Club and Maryland Green Schools have connected me to other schools in Prince George's County and now across the state. Youth voice is important for the future of the environment, and the Mayo Youth Council has given me another outlet to bond with my peers and to be part of discussions, strategy, and planning and implementation of environmental work in my state. My community, friends, family, and Mayo have all given me courage to lead. Our future needs more students to be involved at school and in the community. The work that Mayo is doing helps students like me have the tools equipped to build a sustainable life for ourselves and others. This is why I urge a favorable report on this bill. Thank you for your time.
Next, Elizabeth McCook, please. You're on mute.
Sorry. Hello, members of the Budget and Taxation Committee. I strongly urge your support of House Bill 531, the Mayo Education Grant Funding and Evaluation Extension. My name is Elizabeth McCook. I am currently a high school science teacher in Urbana High School in Frederick County, Maryland. I've been teaching in Maryland for the past 36 years, 23 of them here at Urbana. I'm an environmental science teacher and have come to know the value of providing students with learning opportunities that are real and relevant to their everyday lives. Environmental education is a fantastic way for students to see connections between the classroom and their surroundings, our environment. Several years ago, along with much support and guidance, my students started a composting program in our school cafeteria. Support from Mayo and community organizations have helped this grow into initiatives across the state. We need and appreciate the efforts by Mayo that helped and continue to help make this possible. We have since become a Maryland Green School and have started a green team at our school to support this project. Mayo and the Green School application process provided my students with the framework to improve and lessen our school's environmental impacts. It is critical that you continue to support Mayo and their efforts to strengthen environmental education and resources for schools and teachers. Our stable future depends on students having the knowledge, appreciation, and realization that they can make a difference with the choices they make. Mayo recognizes the importance of their role as support for formal and informal environmental teachers in Maryland who have the same mission. Across the state, Maryland Green School teachers have used the environment as a lens for their instruction. The cultures at these schools have shifted to improve levels of awareness, protection, and recognition of the fact that even one student can make a difference and positively impact their surroundings and quality of life in their homes and communities. Students who are a part of a Maryland Green School such as ours are exposed to many practices of sustainability firsthand. Being a part of the Maryland Green School Network allows teachers to share ideas and practices that create unique opportunities for students. Empowerment of student ideas and the implementation of successful change-making projects leads to communities of adults who are interested and willing to make changes too. Supporting Mayo supports sustainable communities in our future. I believe in the impact of Maryland Green Schools, and I acknowledge and want you to know that this would not be possible without Mayo and their leadership. Thank you.
Next, Dan Curry, please, for 2 minutes.
Hi. Delegate Atterberry and members of the Ways and Means Committee, I'm here to urge your support of House Bill 531. My school district, Calvert County, was the first in Maryland to achieve 100% Maryland Green School status. Now, this was not only an honor, but a statement about the priorities of the school district. I've been superintendent here since 2014, and I was so glad when I arrived to discover the long-term investment and commitment my district was making in environmental education. Green schools are schools which have chosen to maintain a healthy environment that can support a successful learning environment while saving energy, resources, and money. The Green School Drive has been moving through Calvert County schools since the inception of our environmental education program we call Chess Packs. Environmental education is important to us, and our staff works closely with local, state, and regional partner agencies to provide hands-on environmental education experiences for our students. The Maryland Association of Environmental Outdoor Education has been leading and managing the Maryland Green Schools program since 1999. We're proud to say that Calvert County was the first school district in Maryland where 100% of our K-2 schools are certified. Of those 24 schools, 11 of them have reached a sustainable status. Queen Anne's County Public Schools joined us in 2020, and we'd like to see other school districts achieve 100% green school status. The Green Schools Act makes a difference for a school district like ours, where we're committed to having all schools maintain their green school status, and to those school districts that would like to get there. There's no monetary award to become green, but those funds go to teachers and schools and partners throughout the state to strengthen their programs and inspire new ones. This will have long-term implications and support school system sustainability goals. We urge your support of this bill, Maryland Green Schools. Thank you.
Last but not least, Joanne Snyder, please, for 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. I am pleased to also testify in support of House Bill 531 to extend Mayo's grant funding and evaluation. I build also off the fantastic written testimony that was submitted by the Free State PTA president. I encourage you all to read her very comprehensive letter. My name is Joanne Snyder. I am a science curriculum specialist at the Lawrence Hall of Science at UC Berkeley. I telecommute from Silver Spring, Maryland, where I am the mother of an MCPS first grader and rising kindergartner. And I am also the chair of the Montgomery County Council of PTA's new Green School Subcommittee. In my career, I have worked with many large districts incorporating their schoolyards into daily learning. Montgomery County Public Schools have shown a clear commitment to the Maryland Green Schools program, and we are excited to collaborate to support their work. We've had a lot of interest amongst our parents about this. We are also thrilled by the Montgomery County Climate Action Plan committing to 100% green schools in Montgomery County by 2035. Now more than ever, students, teachers, and families need these outdoor initiatives for mental health recovery. The stressors of the pandemic and climate change are having major impacts on the well-being of our children. The Green Schools culture builds a place-based foundation, which is essential for environmentally literate citizens like Javier. Time outdoors reduces stress, anxiety, and depression for adults and children. Research also shows being outdoors can improve student attention and memory and increase enthusiasm, self-motivation, and academic performance. And participating in outdoor learning with students shows increased job satisfaction for teachers, which we all know is desperately needed after the impact of the pandemic. Many of Maryland's largest school districts, like the 4 you're hearing from today, are committed to expanding the Green Schools program. Please support their effort by supporting HB 531 and extending the requirement for state funding to Mayo's important work. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Smith or the panel? Okay, seeing none, thank you. That concludes the testimony on House Bill 531. Now calling our most frequent flyer, Delegate, we love you, Ben Brooks.
Madam Chair, we love you back. Oh, boy.
Whenever you're ready, you can begin, sir.
Okay, thanks. Chair Atterberry, Vice Chair Washington, and members of this great committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify before you on behalf of HB 630. That's a public high schools financial literacy pilot program establishment. For the record, I'm Delegate Ben Brooks. I represent the 10th Legislative District in Baltimore County. The purpose of this bill is to require the State Board of Ed to establish a financial literacy pilot program. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development defines financial literacy as a combination of awareness, knowledge, and behaviors necessary to make sound financial decisions and achieve financial well-being. Since 2011, the Maryland Department of Education has had a financial literacy standard that has been implemented in all 24 local systems. However, only 7 schools have financial literacy as a 4-credit course. While our current model has been in place for the past 10 plus years, Marylanders continue to struggle with the basic of good finances. According to the National Financial Capability Study, 1/3 of Marylanders only pay their minimum on their credit card bill. And additionally, 34% of Marylanders have difficulty making ends meet, and 45% of Marylanders don't have an emergency fund. Furthermore, Hispanics and African-American individuals are 12% less likely than their white counterparts to have a retirement investment account. HB 630 works in collaboration with the existing state regulations to enhance our students' knowledge of following and creating a budget, saving money, managing debt, investing, simple and compound interest, and teaching our students the basic personal financial concept that lays the foundation that enables them to make informed decisions as adults. This program requires reporting back to the Maryland General Assembly to assess its value to our high school juniors and seniors. Positive results will allow the stakeholders an opportunity to make informed decisions regarding the continuation and enhancement of such program. For these reasons and for our kids, Madam Chair, I request a favorable report. Now, I think we have some, what I would call some amazing people to testify on behalf of this bill, which includes some kids as well. So I would like for them to come on now.
Okay, well, I'll call in the order that I have. And do you have a preference of someone? Otherwise, I'll just call my list.
Yeah, just call your list. That's fine.
Thank you. Okay, so for 2 minutes, Kashi Kaz, if I pronounced that correctly.
Kashi Kaze.
Kaze.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 minutes whenever you're ready, Mr. Kaze.
Thank you very much. Very briefly, I've been faculty at the Salisbury University for the past 37 years, and I have always tried to push for a financial literacy for all incoming freshmen. Every time we were trying to look for genetic improvement, they were stumbling block. But for the past 6-7 years, we finally were successful to introduce that in our new gen ed that will be coming up in 2024. Now, having said that, I am a firm believer that financial literacy is extremely important for our youth. I am very happy to see that there is this pilot program for the 11th and 12th grade at the highest school. That's a very excellent, good start. At the same time, I hope in the future there will be another pilot program that would start from K through 12, because financial literacy, it is something that needs to be instilled at an early age. To give you one example, when I was 16, I asked my dad, buy me that Ford Mustang. And of course, that was the first or second year that the Mustang was out. And my dad said, well, I cannot afford it. I owe a lot. And I said, well, owe more. When my daughter, who is now 39, was 8, said, Dad, buy me this. I said, dear daughter, I'm paying a lot on the house and cars and this and that. I don't have the money. And she said, write a check. So that shows how much I knew at the age of 16 and how much my daughter knew at the age of 8 regarding financial literacy. Both of us felt that the money grows on a tree. A lot of people feel that way, but that's not the case. The money will go on a tree if you have a right tree to plant and get the fruit of it over time. That's the only way that our kids can be successful in the future. Now, I don't know how much of the 2 minutes I have.
You've used it up, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next, Noah Pinson, please, for 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Noah Pinson. I'm a senior at Quince Orchard High School in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and Chief Operating Officer of InnovateX, a nonprofit organization dedicated to expanding access to financial literacy for students of all socioeconomic backgrounds. Today, I'm here before you to express my support for HB 630. As a public school student from Gaithersburg, Maryland, one of the most diverse cities in the entire country, I've seen the impacts of the wealth divide firsthand. Educational inequities rooted in these wealth disparities continue to grow and are only perpetuated by the lack of financial literacy in schools. And yet, despite this absence of financial literacy, my organization, InnovateX, found that more than 85% of public school students in Montgomery County supported the expansion of financial literacy to all high schools in Montgomery County Public Schools. And this isn't something unique to Montgomery County, but the same sentiment has been expressed all throughout the entire state. What's even more encouraging is that we already have the framework for such a course. At many high schools, advanced placement economics is offered, but a financial literacy course would make some of the most important topics accessible to all students, not just those fortunate enough to attend certain schools. Maryland prides itself on being one of the most educated states in the nation, But how can we truly educate our students without equipping them with the knowledge needed for future financial independence? Without financial literacy, MSDE simply cannot fulfill its duty of providing students with the skills needed for college and career readiness. For these reasons, I urge you to give a favorable report of House Bill 630 so that all students have exactly what they need to succeed. Thank you.
Next, Katie Yoon, please, for 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Katie Yuan, and I'm here to speak today in support of the HB 630 Financial Literacy Pilot Program Bill. Today, I'm speaking as the founder of InnovateX, a student-led nonprofit spearheading advocacy for personal finance education in Montgomery County, and a senior at Richard Montgomery High School in Rockville, Maryland. From hosting personal finance town halls to founding a Montgomery County personal finance working group, I've had the opportunity to speak with countless students across my county about their financial preparedness. But before I continue, let me ask, how many of the adults here in this room today have bought a house, a car, or paid taxes? Pretty much everyone, right? For some, it may have been under the guidance of parents, but for most, it was self-taught and a skill learned over time through trial and error. Not every student has the luxury of mentors or the time to teach themselves the basics of financial literacy while balancing school and job responsibilities. The best place to develop skills in financial literacy is in our public schools. And that's why, over the past year, our organization, InnovateX, has worked closely with the Montgomery County Board of Education to expand personal finance course offerings to all 25 MCPS high schools. Our survey of over 1,200 high school students across the county revealed that over 85% of students supported the expansion of this course to all high schools. However, these experiences are not just limited to students from my county. As you're considering the futures of over 800,000 Maryland public school students, I urge for a favorable report on HB 630 to ensure that no Maryland student will ever have to once again fear about their financial futures. Thank you.
Next, Edward Lee, please, for 2 minutes.
You need to unmute yourself, Mr. Lee.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Edward Lee. I'm the founder of Teach Them to Fish, a financial literacy home ownership program that I started after I became a realtor. When I got into the real estate business, I found that there was a new form of redlining in real estate, and it is poor credit. I saw any number of people who are unable to realize the American dream because they could not could not get credit. And that was the reason for the foundation and formation of the Teach Them to Fish. I believe that the current bill that we're discussing here today, House Bill 630, will go a long way in our schools, preparing young people for the real world tomorrow. In our program, ladies and gentlemen, I find that out of the school system, we are working with vice principals, we're working with educators, we're working with past students, and then the problem that they have in real terms of coming to purchase a home, that they have no real idea of how to manage their credit. They know nothing, they don't understand the system that is designed to serve them, of how it works against them, but how it can work for them. I believe firmly that House Bill 630, working with what we have and what the state education has created for financial literacy, this bill will go a long way in preparing our students for tomorrow. It's very, very needed. I trust that most of you understand home ownership and how important owning a piece of land and property is in this country, and particularly here in Maryland. I would hope that you would give every consideration to a favorable non-vote to 630 when you make your final decision. Thank you so much.
Ms. Javin, please, for 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Ways and Means Committee. Thank you for having me. For the record, my name is Drew Jabin. I'm here on behalf of the Maryland Bankers Association in strong support of House Bill 630. You all do have my written testimony. You've heard what the bill does. I will keep this brief. I think that we can all agree that financial literacy is really important at all ages. And I think that it's worth noting that individuals who take a financial literacy course early, like in high school, would have the most time to apply the knowledge that they've learned, hopefully, before having to make many financial decisions on their own. So as a former MACO policy staff covering the education portfolio, I understand the general concern of mandating specific curriculum. So I definitely see it as a welcome consideration that the bill solely authorizes local school systems to implement this program once the board has established it. Although, of course, we would support and encourage local school systems to implement this. And it's also worth mentioning that because it's an authorizing bill, the only semi kind of notable expenditure in the fiscal note seems to be a one-time investment for MSD to hire someone to actually lead the work of establishing the program. So we strongly believe that this investment is worth the potential for Maryland students to be able to learn about the basics of money management, like budgeting, savings, managing debt. And we strongly believe that all Maryland students should receive a robust financial education and know these basics. So I think that this bill takes an important step forward in that goal by establishing the financial literacy pilot program. And accordingly, we do urge a favorable vote on House Bill 630. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Delegate Brooks or any of the witnesses?
Madam Chair, may I make one last comment?
Sure.
Yeah. So I leave or finalize by saying this. We've already bought our kids the car. Now let's just teach them how to drive it, and that's what the financial literacy is about. Thank you.
That concludes the testimony on House Bill 630. I'm sure we'll see you over here again soon, Delegate Brooks.
Okay. I promise. Okay. Thanks, yeah.
Okay. All right. And wrapping us up today, House Bill 515, Delegate Feldmark. And there are 9 witnesses after you who will have 2 minutes. So whenever you're ready, Delegate, you can begin.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and committee members. For the record, I am Delegate Jessica Feldmark, presenting House Bill 515, the Inclusive Athletic Attire Act. This bill codifies the right of a student athlete to modify a team uniform to conform to the requirements or preferences of their religion or culture. Student athletes should not have to seek administrative approval of their faith. As long as a uniform modification is safe, a student should simply be allowed to make the needed adjustments and fully enjoy all the benefits of participating in sports as part of their educational experience. As Madam Chair mentioned, we do have a number of witnesses signed up to testify. So in the interest of time, I am keeping my testimony very brief so you can hear from them directly. Of course, though, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have and ask for your favorable report. Thank you.
First, Ms. Chaudhry, please, for 2 minutes. Oh, you're on, yeah, there you go.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Delegate Feldmark, Chair Atterberry, members of the House Ways and Means Committee. On behalf of CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, I thank you for this opportunity to testify in strong support of House Bill 515. CARE is America's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization. Over the last several years, I've personally spoken with many families of students across the state who either faced obstacles in competing in school sports because they wear a religious headscarf and dress modestly, or they've chosen not to pursue their passion for sports out of concern that they would be singled out because of their religious beliefs. Some of this fear, unfortunately, is rooted in the experience of other Maryland student athletes, including Janan Hayes and Maheen Huck, who are among the witnesses that you're going to hear from today. Playing competitive sports is challenging enough without having to worry about uniform policies that risk compromising religious practices or values. But when regulations make it difficult to practice those beliefs, It creates a frustrating stalemate that no amount of skill or practice alone can resolve. This is a dilemma that athletes around the world have faced, including American athletes Bilkis Abdulkader and Darshpreet Singh. I won't get into their stories. Their stories are in the written testimony that you have before you. But over the last 5 years, we have fortunately made a lot of progress to make sports more inclusive for athletes of all religious backgrounds at every level. In 2017, my organization welcomed FIBA's official ruling lifting its ban on religious headwear to allow players who wear articles of faith to participate in international competitions. Also in 2017, we applauded the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association's policy change, basically prompted by Janan's case, allowing student athletes to wear articles of faith, including the hijab, the Islamic headscarf. Later in 2021, my organization welcomed the National Federation of State High School Associations' decision to permit religious headscarves and other religious headgear for volleyball players. House Bill 515 is important because it takes that 2017 policy that already grants religious exceptions in Maryland and it codifies it into law, as Delegate Feldmark stated. The bill builds on similar legislation enacted in other states, including Illinois and Tennessee. It creates an extra layer of security to protect students' rights. It addresses a safety concern by mandating that any uniform modifications for religious purposes should not pose a hazard. Many well-known retailers, including Under Armour and Nike, now manufacture sports hijabs and modest athletic attire that are widely endorsed by national and international athletes. Our own U.S. Olympist gold medalist, Ibtihaj Muhammad, also is a sponsor of some of those headscarves. Religion should never be a factor in determining whether anyone is qualified or capable of competing in any sport. This historic bill will defend the constitutionally protected right to religious
Audrey,
freedom.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up your testimony.
I'm almost done, especially in these politically tumultuous times. Therefore, we respectfully urge a favorable report in House Bill 515. Thank you.
Don Hayes, please, for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Dear Chair Vanessa Atterberry and House Ways and Means Committee members, I feel a great sense of honor to be able to use my voice and testify in support of HB 515. And I am immensely thankful to the representatives who have introduced this legislation in response to my personal experience. This has forever shaped my high school career and the future of Maryland public high schools and community colleges. Looking back at my trials I faced while being on the varsity basketball team at Watkinsville High School, my battles began when I would wear long sleeve shirts under my jersey and the referees withheld me from playing because my undershirt was not a part of the official uniform. As a woman who was Muslim and observes hijab, conforming my modesty to fit into the archaic rulings is something that is not up for negotiation. On many occasions, I observed that some referees allowed other players, especially the boys, to wear opposite color undershirts that played for the same team. I often feel discriminated against for just wearing an undershirt and upholding my religious beliefs of modesty. In my 11 years of wearing hijab, I have gotten my fair share of stares and offensive jokes, but I never thought I would experience a ruling from a sport that would make me authenticate my sincerity to my faith. I had previously played in 24 basketball tournaments at my school during the season. On March 3rd, 2017, everything shifted for me. My team had lost a regional final against Oxon Hill High School, and after losing, my coach, Donita Adams, pulled me aside, informing me that I was not able to play due to me not having an official documentation proving my reason for hijab. Here's my reason. I am Muslim. Wearing hijab is a part of my uniform that God and God only can rule on. I should not be a target for simply practicing what I believe per my faith. And a need for documentation about wearing hijab in a sport was never brought to my attention when I tried out for the team, and it was not ever discussed with me before the referee during the regional final. Nonetheless, I am somewhat grateful to the Oxon Hill referee who chose to enforce the archaic ruling on that day, and I have gained many opportunities to impact change and increase community support. Thank you once again.
Next, Maheen Hack, please, for 2 minutes.
Dear committee members, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of HB 15. I also want to thank the representatives who have introduced and supported this legislation. As a child, I played basketball for my middle school and high school in Smithsburg, Maryland. And I remember when I was 12 years old, I was kicked out of my basketball game and had to give up my position simply because I was wearing a hijab. It was one of the utmost dehumanizing experiences of my life, and it instilled within me a deep feeling of otherness and inferiority to my white counterparts. Justice Warren stated in the unanimous decision of the Supreme Court in Brown v. Board, which ended formal segregation in public schools, To separate them from others of similar age and qualifications solely because of their race generates a feeling of inferiority as to their status in the community that may affect their hearts and minds in a way that is unlikely to ever be undone. This statement is also true of barring religious minorities from participating in athletics. It reinforces a white supremacist hierarchy where religious minorities and students of color find themselves at the bottom and psychologically defeated. It is past time that we pass legislation to ensure this type of Islamophobia and discrimination does not occur and send a clear message that it is not tolerated. So long as we do not pass this legislation that protects our freedom of religion in athletics, organizers, referees, and other athletic participants can arbitrarily enforce rules to deny access to Muslim women and other individuals. We will effectively be allowing private citizens to enforce state-sanctioned discrimination under the guise of arbitrary safety rules. As someone who was raised in Hagerstown, Maryland, I received threats and harassment on a daily basis where students would call me terrorist, raghead, Osama's daughter, and also sometimes I would be afraid of being physically assaulted. I felt unprotected by the school, which led to violent internalized inferiority that I am still undoing to this day. The Assembly's decision of whether or not to protect religious minorities is not only about the athletic space, but also the general lack of care and lack of protection of religious minorities in educational institutions. If the Maryland General Assembly enables individuals to discriminate against religious minorities in athletics, they further enable teachers to look away when a student is being harassed or Islamophobic. The decision to leave religious minorities vulnerable will enable white supremacists, Islamophobes, anti-Semites, and bigots. The Assembly's decision will ultimately contribute to the culture of tolerance of discrimination in our institutions and state. You have the opportunity to send a clear message to the religious minorities in this state that we care about you and we will protect you. I respectfully urge your vote in favor of the Inclusive Attire Act. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
For sharing your personal story with us. Akil Bahanti for 2 minutes, please.
Dear Chair Atterberry and House Ways and Means Committee members, my name is Akal Bhutani. I'm here to provide testimony in support of HB 515, which seeks to grant an exception to the National Federation of High Schools Association uniform standards. So, by way of background, the Sikh religion, founded in India, is the 5th largest organized religion in the world, with over 500,000 followers in the United States. While Sikhs have been an integral part of the American fabric for over 145 years, they remain disproportionately targeted in cases of bigotry, bias, bullying, and backlash. Relative to other vulnerable minorities, Sikhs are disproportionately targeted for discrimination because they wear turbans and remain unshorn hair, including facial hair, in accordance with their faith. According to a survey by the Sikh Coalition, 67% of turban Sikh children have experienced some sort of bullying, which is more than twice the national average. So I'm actually on the way to a basketball game myself, and students may often wear a patka, a smaller version of the Sikh turban, which is this. And the turban and patka are religious head covers required by the Sikh faith that cannot be easily removed or reapplied due to their spiritual significance. A turban and patka should always be treated respectfully, as they are considered articles of faith that are fundamental to Sikh religious practice. Sikhs have the right to wear these articles of faith in school settings, including while playing sports. At both the collegiate and professional level, Sikhs have been allowed to play with their articles of faith. FIFA allows Sikhs to play with turbans, and Sikhs to play competitive basketball with their turbans, and the NCAA with Darshpreet Singh, and NBL Canada with Dipinjot Singh. So I've been an avid student athlete my whole life, and I've played a myriad of sports, from basketball to football to soccer and more. For me and many others, sports are a way to stay healthy, make friends, and be part of a community. My patka has never impacted my performance or anyone else's on the field or the court. Most of my Sikh friends have also played sports their entire lives. So I'm reminded of an incident where one of my friends was told that his patka violated league rules in a recreation basketball game. He was dumbfounded when he heard this because his patka had never been an issue for him or for anyone else on the court. He was unable to play that game and left feeling heartbroken.
I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap up your testimony.
I support HB 515 in codifying religious uniform exceptions into state law so that no one is forced to choose between their passion for sports and practicing their faith. I respectfully urge your vote in favor of HB 515. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, and good luck in your game. Next individual, we don't see in the queue, but I'm going to call her just in case we're missing something. Carlita Foster Hayes, are you with us? Okay. So next I'm going to call Yasmin, but I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. So if you can just tell us your name, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Good afternoon, Chair Atterberry and the members of the House Ways and Means Committee. My name is Yasmin El-Kasheri, and I just wanted to come on here in support of this bill that is titled Inclusive Athletic Attire Act, because it has personal meaning to me and is something that I have to support as a hijabi and as a Muslim who's an athlete. So ever since I was a young girl, playing sports has been one of my biggest passions, and it's always been something that is very important to me as a human being, because there's something about the excitement of like winning games and celebrating with teammates, and it's being part of something that is bigger than you. So it's kind of a community within itself, and it's just something good for you to have as a person. And it's not replaceable by anything else, being part of a team. And so sports are a big part of like a child's upbringing, and it teaches many irreplaceable lessons that you can't get anywhere else. So the fact that these experiences could be denied from someone because of their religious choices is beyond unfair. I'm a hijabi myself, as you can see, and I have played soccer for years. I've played club soccer, academy soccer, varsity soccer, and I'm now in the process of playing for a semi-professional team. And in all my years of playing, I have never had a problem with my uniforming, due to the small fact that there's no problem unless there is there's a way you could harm the other players because of what you're wearing, or there's a difference in colors. So the fact that there could be restrictions on uniforming when neither of those are a problem is not correct. Covering up and wearing a headscarf is a difficult decision. So the fact that that decision could become sort of a punishment is demeaning, and it shows no empathy for the struggles that hijabis have to already go through, as we are already pushed away from kind of our community, our society, because we feel different. So the fact that this like little community that we already have in sports could be also pushed away from us because of what we wear is just really, it's just really horrible of a thing to have to go through. And I would just urge for this bill to be passed so that no child or nobody has to feel like they can't play because of what they wear and what they believe in.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. My son is only 6 and he wants to be semi-pro, so you're super impressive. He wants to be pro, so thank you. Good luck. Keep it up, and girl power. So next, Simran Singh, please, for 2 minutes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Simranjit Singh. I am the Executive Director for Religion and Society at the Aspen Institute. And I had prepared remarks, and I actually would like to abandon those after listening to the heartbreaking testimony of these kids, because, I grew up in this country and I was denied the right to play the sports that I loved. I have 3 brothers. We all love sports. We were asked several times to choose between our faith and our love for sports. My older brother sat out his entire year of high school basketball that he had dreamed of. I had to sit out soccer games. My younger brother had to sit out basketball games. And eventually we were able to break barriers and get accommodations. And my younger brother became the first to play college basketball in the NCAA. And while that is an achievement, it's also, looking back, such a painful memory of what exclusion looks and feels like. And it doesn't have to be that way. And now, as I'm thinking about my own kids, and this is my daughter in the back, and I'm thinking about her growing up in this country, what could we do differently so that we ensure that our kids who you're hearing from today, and that I'm hearing from today, and going through those same things that I had to 20 years ago, and nothing's changed. And, to me, this is an opportunity to set a new precedent, a different way of thinking about who gets to count in this country, to update our policies so they fit into where we are as a society and where we aspire to be. And the other thing that I think really stands out to me is that it's essentially a false choice. I have never had a problem playing with my turban. My brother's never had a problem playing with theirs. These are outdated policies that no longer conform to what America is as a country. And so that's where I want to conclude my remarks, just in solidarity with my younger siblings and my younger sisters and brothers who are doing more than they need to in order to have equal access in this society. And I encourage you all to affirm their right to exist in this country with equality and with dignity. So thank you.
And I see Miss Carlita Foster Hayes is with us, so you can testify whenever you're ready for 2 minutes, please.
All right. Thank you, dear Chair Vanessa Atterberry and House Ways and Means Committee members. I want to thank you for this opportunity to testify in support of HB 515 entitled Inclusive Athletic Attire Act. And I'm happy to provide my written testimony and oral testimony, and I'm pleased to see this addressed in this legislation. Now, the decision to play basketball came late in my daughter's high school years, but she was determined to try out for the team. She succeeded and was put on the varsity team on her first try. I was so proud of her journey that she was on, taking a leap to be part of something that I never felt comfortable doing, playing basketball. She worked hard each game to do her best and always stayed true to her faith as a young Muslim hijabi woman. Now, as a parent, it's heartbreaking to sit on the sidelines on March 3rd, 2017, waiting in anticipation as my daughter was ready to play her first regional basketball game, along with her Watkins Mill high school teammates. Now, that anticipation was short-lived, rather snatched away due to the technicality that neither of us was aware of. A piece of paper, a written waiver, stood in the way of her having the privilege of playing in that game. Now, a referee for that fateful day cited the National Federation of State High School Associations rulebook, which states that head decorations and headwear are prohibited, which made the decision to ask for such a waiver. Now, this waiver documentation should be in the possession of the athletic director or coach at all times and be able to be presented when needed. Now, the basketball liability waiver would have excused her to play with this sacred hijab, which is like second nature as putting on her shirt or pants when she goes out. Now, this hijab is very distinguishable for a Muslim woman, easy to identify. Now, as my daughter sat on the bench, not one, but all 4 quarters, I became worried about her not playing. That worry turned into annoyance, which turned into frustration and pivoted to anger. Why? As it turned out, not once during the entire basketball season in Montgomery County was she informed that she should have requested a waiver of any kind because she is different in a way, her hijab. That one thing that made her unique, stand out, and one of a kind was an issue. Neither the athletic director.
Ms. Foster Hayes, I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap up your testimony.
Yes, I'm almost finished, thank you. So neither her athletic director nor her coach informed her that such a paper of this waiver was to be held and held so much power to exclude her from playing in that regional games. Now, times are changing, and that should be, it is our archaic rules in many sports, organizations, and institutions should be revised. Now, one should not be singled out, discriminated against, or made to feel left out because of the way they wear their hijab. Now, I truly believe that HB 515 bill is much needed and fully support your commitment to protect the religious freedom of our vastly different makeup of our wonderful community. And I respectfully urge you to vote in this favor. And thank you for your consideration.
Emmanuel is signed up. She, I don't believe, is here. And so wrapping up, Matt Peterson, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Atterberry, Vice Chair Washington. My name is Matt Peterson, and I'm here on behalf of the Baltimore Jewish Council in strong support of HB 515. Student athletics should be about competition. They should be about skill and the lifelong lessons and opportunities that students can achieve from participating in sports. It shouldn't be about what they're wearing or what their beliefs are, because as we know, many different religions in Maryland call for many different forms of attire, and this shouldn't be how we're determining someone's success in sports. And it should certainly not prohibit them from participating altogether. So I just want to also, before I conclude, thank the young people who shared their very moving stories and thank them for their courage and bravery. And I want to also thank the committee for their time and urge a favorable report on HB 515. So thank you so much, and have a good rest of your afternoon.
Are there any questions for Delegate Feldmark or anyone who testified here today? Okay, seeing none, thank you all very much for coming in and testifying. That concludes the testimony on House Bill 515. Ways and Means Committee members, we are going to vote. I'll give you a quick little break to use the restroom or whatnot. Please log back on at 4:45. Thank you.